Hey everybody, welcome to Old Man Gaming. This is the next installment of my top 10 magic item list by rarity for D&D 5th edition. Today's topic is very rare. And of course, as always, because this is on the internet, it has been vetted by the experts in the field and thus should be taken as gospel. I had a little trouble with the lighting today. You'll notice that my tie is sparkling, if you will. So just pretend like it's a magic item itself. Otherwise, the green screen is just not working. Anyway, without further ado and other preamble, here's the top 10 list. At number 10, we have the Ring of Regeneration. While wearing this ring, you get 1d6 hit points back every 10 minutes. Who doesn't love some free healing? It also fixes dismemberment. Doesn't happen all that often, at least not in my campaigns. But it's a nice thing to have. Number 9 is a doozy, the Mirror of Life Trapping. It's essentially a extra dimensional jail or transport, depends on your situation, but you can store up to 12 people inside the mirror. The save is pretty tough. It's a DC 15 charisma. Not a lot of creatures have a very good charisma score, so it's a pretty good way to surprise trap your enemies. It's also a great way to transport your allies. An interesting note is that you don't age, don't need food or drink or sleep or anything else. I feel like there's a lot of potential there, although I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But the fact that you can store 12 creatures in here, either friendly or enemy, that's why it's number 9. At number 8, we have the Staff of Striking. Now granted, not a lot of people use the quarterstaff, but if you had this one, you'd probably use it. It's a +3 weapon. And here's the kicker. The staff has 10 charges, and when you hit, that's key, you can spend up to 3 charges, and for each charge, you deal an extra d6 of force damage. But the amount of damage you can do with this, if you're a crit fisher, is ridiculous. It's enough to turn any fan of a blade into a fan of the bludgeon. And as a lot of these weapons and wands and staffs go, if you use all the charges, you have a chance of losing it. So make sure you keep one in the tank. And so at number 8 comes the Staff of Striking. At number 7, we have the Rod of Absorption. This little guy is very appealing to any warlock out there, and really any spellcaster. It works very much like the Ring of Spell Storing, but unfortunately is a consumable. So you're limited to up to 50 levels of spell. However, that's a lot of spells, especially for a warlock. If you get a chance to get this, grab it and thank me later. So again, at number 7 is the Rod of Absorption. At number 6, we have the Rod of Alertness. This little guy has a lot of features. First of all, you get advantage on perception checks and initiative rolls. Secondly, you add a few extra spells to your spell list, none of which are all that exciting, but free spell is a free spell. Now this is the big thing, the Protective Aura. As an action, you can plant the haft of the rod into the ground, whereupon the rod's head sheds bright light in 60 feet and another 60 feet of dim light. While in that bright light, you and any creature that is friendly to you gain a +1 bonus to AC and saving throws, and can sense the location of any invisible hostile creature that is also in the bright light. If you've seen my previous videos, you know how much I love an increase to AC, but mostly an increase to saving throws. So I'm a fan of this little guy. And for all those features, it makes its appearance as number 6 on this list. At number 5, we have the Carpet of Flying, and anyone who's seen Aladdin knows how great these can be. But let's break it down for 5th edition D&D. The carpet comes in various sizes. The larger the carpet, the more carrying capacity. The smaller the carpet, the faster it goes. Personally, I would like a carpet that can carry at least 2 people, but I'm not going to turn down any of these. So at any size or speed, this flying rug earned its place as number 5 on this list. At number 4, we have the Crystal Ball. It does exactly what you imagine it would do. While touching it, you cast the Scrying spell with the DC 17. One of the best parts is it doesn't require any spell slots, so you can cast it all day, every day. Quick note on the Scrying spell itself, you're going to want to have first-hand knowledge of the person that you're looking after, unless of course you're trying to see into a particular place that you've been. But then again, now that I think of it, if you can cast it over and over, then I guess you really don't need any familiarity with the creature. Just keep casting it. Scrying can be invaluable on a campaign. So that's why it gets its slot at number 4. Next on the list is the Robe of Stars, coming in at number 3. You get a +1 to your saving throws, which, as you know, I'm a big fan of, but you also get a +1 to AC on top of your armor, so no worries about replacing anything you're wearing. You also gain the ability to essentially use the portal gun 3 times a day. You cast an arcane gate that you can walk through in one direction. In doing this, you create 2 circles. The distance of the portals has to be within 500 feet, and you have to be able to see where you place the ends of the portal. You can do this up to 3 times in a day. However, if you have no more of these portal charges, real interesting things can happen. You roll a d100 and figure out which spell gets cast. All of the spells on this can be very handy in a combat situation. I love the idea of blowing through all of your portal spells just to get to this table right before combat. I'm not going to go through all of the spells in the list, it's a little extensive. One last note, you can also use this to travel to the astral plane as an action. However, and this is important, as you can see down in the description, it is in all caps. If you do not have any stars left on your robe, you are stuck in the astral plane. So make sure you've got a star handy, otherwise you're stuck there. But otherwise it's a great get out of dodge situation. With all these abilities wrapped into one single item, it makes its way at number 3 on our top 10 list. Coming in at number 2, we have the Wand of Polymorph. You can pretty much cast Polymorph 7 times a day. One benefit of this is that it doesn't require a caster to attune to it. Another is that you can cast Polymorph 7 times in one day with a pretty significant spell DC. As before, don't use that last charge or you run the risk of losing the item. So you might think that this is kind of a simple item, but Polymorph is an extremely powerful spell. It can completely swing the tides of a combat and has some pretty interesting out-of-combat elements. If you've never played 5th edition or don't know a lot about the Polymorph spell, just take my word for it, it's pretty great. Great enough to make its way to number 2 on the list. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that we do honorable mentions. Oil of Sharpness. It allows you to turn most weapons into +3 magical weapons, which is pretty amazing, and that includes 5 pieces of ammunition if you are a ranged attacker. I'm a big fan, and I couldn't go without at least mentioning it. The problem is it's a consumable. Another honorable mention is the Staff of Fire or the Staff of Frost. It gives you resistance to either fire or frost, and they add some pretty great spells, but not enough charges to really get my engine going, so that's why they're only mentioned and not on the list themselves. And finally, on to number 1. But before we get there, a quick call to action. Feel free to like, subscribe, and more importantly, check out my Twitch. It's in the description below. Shameless, I know, I hate myself. But anyway, on to number 1. At number 1, we have the Rod of Security. While holding this rod, you can use an action to activate it. The rod then instantly transports you and up to 199 other willing creatures you can see to a paradise that exists in an extraplanar space. Regardless of whatever you choose, the paradise contains enough water and food to sustain its visitors. Anything you interact with within the actual paradise has to stay in the paradise, so you can't take anything with you when you leave. For each hour spent in the paradise, a visitor regains hit points as if it had spent 1 hit die. Also, creatures don't age while in the paradise, although time passes normally. Visitors can remain in the paradise for up to 200 days, divided by the number of creatures present. When the time runs out, or when you end this, you just come back to where you were. But the sheer volume of people you can bring, not to mention that it heals people and you disappear from existence from whatever dangerous situation you're in, is ridiculous. Just seeing that 199, I don't know, I just couldn't make it not number 1. It was so many people. And so with that, it makes its way to number 1 on this top 10 list. So again, if you like the content, go ahead and like, subscribe, and more importantly, check out the Twitch link in the description below. I've also got links to all of the items. Thanks again for watching, and see you for that next video.